Before I begin, I want to announce that I'll be streaming on Twitch again this Saturday. More details about that stream will be announced in a later video, but I just wanted to let y'all know that even when my upload schedule is straight up trash, I'm always working on a new video. Always. Let's just say that I've been planning a lot for the next couple of weeks, and that I haven't had any time to work on these videos until recently. Okay, let's go ahead and get started with this ramble. So, it's been about a week since this year's Game Awards, and after watching that 4-hour bore fest, it made me realize how pointless these events really are. The hype for the Game Awards and E3 make no sense whatsoever. But before I get into why I feel like this, let me explain why the Game Awards had even made me realize this. Okay, I'll be completely honest in saying that I've never sat through any kind of award show, like, ever. The thought of giving something so arbitrary an award based off of nothing but bias has always kept me from watching anything like the Grammys or the Oscars, but I was convinced that the Game Awards was much more than that, and oh boy will I not be making that same mistake again. The info that I've received made it seem like the concept of E3, where it was just a bunch of big announcements about cool stuff, but after watching
Michelle, we are in our crowd.
I know, man, gamers!
We have been gamers forever, and we are at an award show of our people.
Literally, me and Ben used to just like literally spend all night playing like can.
that, I realized that there's absolutely no point in events like this. I haven't heard about the Game Awards until last year, although it wasn't for good reasons. It did have some great announcements here and there. This year's Game Awards had all types of hype and speculation, but nothing to show for it. It was honestly just a bunch of advertisements about stuff we either knew about or games nobody knew about or cared. The only announcements that were at least interesting were No More Heroes 3, Hellblade 2, Wolf Among Us 2, and a couple more here and there, but the problems about all these games announced were that they all looked very similar, and either it was some kind of mobile game or another AAA that we already knew about. Sure, we had confirmations about the monstrosity of the Xbox Series X, and absolutely nothing about the PlayStation 5 other than the first game being released for it. Another thing about the Game Awards that makes no sense to me whatsoever, that even the other award shows have, is good categories. The categories in the Game Awards are very bare bone in how they just do the bare minimum. I mean, just take a look at these categories, cause oh boy, do they look interesting. All the other award shows at least try to have some interesting categories that make it about the people involved in these projects. The Game Awards pay more attention to the esports players than they do the developers who actually made those games possible in the first place, but awards aren't what people really care about, especially when the awards always comes with some kind of backlash. Nobody really cares about the Game of the Year unless they're part of that community. But enough about that. There was so much overhype about what could have shown up at the Game Awards, specifically because of speculation. All that hype was for nothing. We got this. Twice. And a Magic the Gathering and League of Legends commercial every few minutes. Also, where the hell was Sonic in any of this? He was speculated or something, and all we got was the voice actor being in another game. The fact that the Fast and Furious game was the last announcement should show you why I don't understand why anybody was excited for this. Especially since this is the first time I ever sat through something like this. I even have the same gripes about E3, although I never watched that in general, to be fair. It does just seem like a bunch of companies trying to push advertisements in our face in boring, repetitive, and very unnecessary ways. I could definitely understand the appeal of the Nintendo Direct and State of Play because they get straight to the point, which is the new hot games that they're working on. Why do the companies on E3 only care about the spectacle, rather than the products they are actually working on? Some companies try this, and they do it before the idea is even developed. I'm looking at you, Todd Howard. Now, before you say anything, now, you can imagine looking at these events from a surface value and trying to get into it, not caring about these companies' face value. Maybe because you're new to the gaming scene or you haven't grown up with these companies. Now you can imagine why someone like me could never get the appeal of these so-called spectacles, especially when they always include things that have nothing to do with the game, like the Just Dance shit and the Green Day performance that lasted about 10 minutes. It all just feels like padding, since without them, these events would have just been a shell of itself. And that's already what it feels like.